mwaka wa 2016 tulikuwa na kesi mahakamani, kesi ambayo ilikuwa ina masuala ya shamba langu, na jaji wa the High Court judge mmoja Justice Boso alipeana orders kwa Director of CID and Director of Public Prosecution walipoona makaratasi ambayo mmoja bwana Jibril Mohamed na Ali Farah Mohamed aliyoleta kotini yalikuwa gushi. Kwa hiyo order, Jaji Boso aliambia DCI na DPP wafanye kazi zao. DCI investigate na charge. DPP kazi yake ilikuwa ni kuprosecute. DCI alicomply na order hiyo, akafanya uchunguzi, akacharge watu wawili ambaye ni Jibril Mohamed na Farah Ali Mohamed ambao ni relatives wa DPP. Kwa wakati wa mwisho ambapo tulikuwa kotini April this year, kwamba mimi nina kesi na hiyo kesi iko na ni kesi inafaa kuendelea, lakini yeye hataendelea kama Director of Public Prosecution na kesi hiyo, na akaniamrisha niende for private prosecution, of which I did go for private prosecution. Na kustaajabu kwangu, yeye mwenyewe tena amekuja kunishikilia, ananishikilia kwa nongo yangu, kuniambia bado nisiendelee na hiyo private prosecution. Kistaajabisha ya kuwa hiyo maneno ambaye Jibril Mohamed na Farah Ali Mohamed walikuwa wameshtakiwa nayo walipotolewa na DPP. DPP aligeuza the same charge sheet ikawa ni mimi, na anataka kuendelea na hiyo public prosecution kwa hiyo charge sheet ambaye aliigeuza kuwa ni mimi. Anawachana na charge sheet ambayo imemshtaki Farah na Jibril kwa kuwa ni mandugu zake. Ndio hapa nauliza leo, kuna haki katika ofisi ya DPP? If DPP has become the weakest link in what you call criminal justice, he cannot prosecute his cronies, he cannot prosecute his relatives, he cannot prosecute his friends, then kama sisi taxpayers tumewachwa na upweke peke yake. Ni hayo.
When we put public officers in positions whereby they're supposed to act in trust by the public, we expect that they do no less. We expect that they shall perform their duties according to the mandate given to them. We expect that they shall not favor anybody. We shall expect that they shall not be corrupt. We also expect that justice shall prevail. Look at the case of Francis Uzalendo, for example. What is the problem with him? He gets the matter into court. The investigations have been completed by the DCI. The two gentlemen are charged in court. The matter appears before the magistrate in the lower court, Mr. Haji. The prosecutor then comes in, and the DPP then comes in to his prosecutor and says he wants to withdraw the charge. He does not consult the victim, who is Francis Uzalendo. He does not talk to him. He just comes to court and wants to withdraw. What does the law say about it? That in case the DPP wants to withdraw a matter from court, it must be agreeable also by court. The court must be given reasons that are sufficient as to why it's doing so. This is not those days that you could come and withdraw matters without anything, because justice must be served. The victim must be served. In case there's any ADR, it must be known. So what happens in this particular case? The DPP just comes and withdraws the case. The court then says, no, you cannot withdraw this case because it is not serving the ends of justice. You have not followed the procedure. You have not informed the complainant. The complainant is in court here, is even surprised. So the court says this matter must proceed because the reasons given are not sufficient. Then what does the DPP do? Saying because he's the all-knowing and the all-in-charge of the prosecution, he goes to the High Court. What does the High Court do before Justice Ogembo? Ogembo looks at it and finds that there was nothing wrong because he went by way of review. Nothing wrong with what the court had decided in the lower court. The court, then High Court then decides and says this matter must proceed. Once the court has given this decision to proceed, what does the prosecutor do? They come back and say they are not going to proceed with this matter. The matter then comes back to the lower court. The DPP comes and withdraws the matter, leaving a genuine complainant exposed. Tell me, do we need such a kind of person in office today?
We are urging the DPP, and that is what we are saying, the Public Service Commission must tell the DPP to step aside. The witnesses in the cases that we have filed are his employees. They cannot come to testify against him because he'll intimidate them, the way he claims governors and other public officers intimidate their juniors. In Njeru's petition that Mr. Cliff has raised, there are other grounds that we have raised. The first ground is the ground of the late Tekla. Tekla was alleged to have been murdered in Lamu. The DPP, after the DCI provided for evidence to charge, the DPP approved the charge sheet. The charge sheet was taken to the High Court in Garsen. Immediately, the file was going to be called. Before the file was called, a DPP entered a nolle prosequi. A nolle prosequi under the old constitutional dispensation was a document that once the DPP files it, the court has nothing to move forward. Under the new constitution, you cannot terminate a matter that is already filed before you give reasons to the court. The DPP went ahead and entered a nolle prosequi even before the suspect had been charged. History in the making by the Director of Public Prosecution. 2, when the decision not to charge was done and he referred the matter for an inquest, the DPP preferred the inquest to be in Lamu. The family wanted the inquest to be in Nairobi. 3rd, within the petition, we have raised the question, NYS suspects, banks were involved in transaction of the money. The banks pleaded guilty. The DPP decides he will go himself alone and negotiate with the banks. The DPP arrogates himself the power of a judicial officer and finds the banks. The DPP has only prosecutorial powers. He does not have the judicial power to find. He fined the banks. How much the banks were fined is only known by one Nuruddin Haji. It is not in the public domain. How much did the banks got fined? Although the fining was illegal, free. He went ahead and opened an account in a commercial bank in one of the banks that were fined. The laws of this country, it is only the treasury that can open an account for money for the public. The DPP is running a private bank account. We don't know how much money is there. The DPP moves ahead during COVID pandemic, removes 2 billion and hands over Kenyans' money without consulting and asking the Kenyans. He donates to the COVID billionaires. Remember, to date, KEMSA suspects, the billionaire of KEMSA, have never been charged. The questions in Njeru's petition are: 1, who authorized the DPP to open an account outside the consolidated fund? Who gave him the jurisdiction and the mandate to fine the banks? Three, how much money is in those banks? Fourth, when did he become the treasurer to open an account? Remember, in the petition we filed of Top Cohen, we raised the question that the DPP has amalgamated all cases that have huge amounts of money to himself as a person. When did the asset recovery, an authority created by government, an authority funded by government, cease from doing the mandate it is supposed to be done, and the DPP takes it? As Cliff says it, the DPP is rogue. He's the law himself.
Now, Mr. Njeru's petition and the myriad examples that my seniors have put to you is just but an example of the riot. It's a revelation of the riot and the decay that is in the ODPP's office, is an indication of the misdeeds that the ODPP has thus far done that continue to step on the rights of innocent victims like Mr. Njeru and others that my seniors have mentioned. So in summary, what we have seen so far is an officer, a public officer, who is driven by his instincts of nepotism. A man who is protective of his cronies and family members, as Mr. Njeru puts it, so that these people are not available for prosecution when they offend the law. Mr. Njeru is a man who has worked so hard to buy his own piece of land, and now he cannot enjoy it because there are people who forge documents and who the court, through Honorable Eboso, ordered the investigation, and subsequently the DCI directed that these people should be charged before a competent court of law. But what happened really, as Mr. Cliff Ombeta, my senior, has put it, is that the DPP goes ahead to withdraw the cases against these particular individuals and prefer that Mr. Njeru should now take plea for his farm or his land having been stolen from him. So one cannot really understand why we will have the hunter now becoming the hunted. A person who is a victim of the crime now becoming the accused of his own